You know what drives me absolutely crazy? Watching people throw money at cryptocurrency and meme stocks while they're carrying credit card debt that's charging them 22% interest. It's like trying to fill a bucket that has massive holes in the bottom and wondering why you're not making any progress. But here's what's even crazier. 3,000 years ago, the wealthiest man who ever lived wrote a step-by-step investment manual that solves this exact problem. And almost nobody's following it. King Solomon, worth an estimated $2.2 trillion in today's money, didn't just accumulate wealth randomly. He followed a specific sequence for building and protecting resources that's recorded in the book of Proverbs. Wall Street copies these principles without giving credit. Behavioral economists study them without realizing they're biblical. Financial advisors charge thousands of dollars to teach what Solomon wrote for free. Here's something that might shock you. According to recent data, 1 in 3 Americans doesn't even have an emergency fund. The median amount that Americans have saved for emergencies is $500. $500. That's less than most people's monthly car payment. Meanwhile, these same people are asking whether they should buy individual stocks or invest in Bitcoin. It's like asking whether you should buy a Ferrari when you don't even have enough money to fix the transmission in your current car. Today, I'm walking you through the exact investment order according to King Solomon, step by step, so you can maximize your returns while minimizing your risk. And I guarantee some of this is going to surprise you, especially the part about why getting free money from your employer should come before paying off debt, and why one specific account offers triple tax benefits that most people are completely ignoring. Drop your name and location in comments. Subscribe to Solomon Speaks, because what you're about to learn isn't religious advice. It's financial archaeology that's worked for 3 millennia. Step 1. Before you invest a single dollar anywhere, you need to establish what the Bible calls a storehouse. Proverbs 21:20 says, "The wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down." This isn't poetry, it's an economic survival strategy. Solomon is describing what we now call an emergency fund, and the cost of ignoring this principle is devastating. Look at Joseph in Genesis 41. When Pharaoh's dream revealed 7 years of abundance, followed by 7 years of famine, Joseph's solution was radical. Collect 20% of all produce during the good years and store it systematically. He wasn't hoarding, he was creating a buffer that would prevent panic decisions during crisis. When famine struck, Egypt had options while other nations were selling everything they owned just to survive. That's the power of a storehouse. Recent research from Vanguard found that people with at least $2,000 in emergency savings had financial well-being scores that were 21% higher than those without any fund. $2,000 isn't life-changing money, but the psychological impact of having that buffer is enormous. Here's what I recommend. Start by saving your first $1,000 as quickly as possible. This covers most minor emergencies and gives you psychological safety. Then, work toward 1 month of living expenses. Once you hit that milestone, keep building until you reach 3 to 6 months of expenses, depending on your job stability. The question everyone asks is where to keep this money. Don't invest your emergency fund in the stock market. You need it liquid and safe. A high-yield savings account is perfect. You're not trying to get rich with this money. You're buying peace of mind and preventing terrible decisions when life inevitably throws you a curveball. Without this foundation, everything else you build financially is on quicksand. If you're going through difficulty in any area of your life right now, whether it's financial struggles, family challenges, health issues, or anything else, let us know in the comments. Say, "I need prayer for," and tell us your situation. We're a community, and we believe in standing together. James 5:16 says, "The prayer of the righteous is powerful and effective." We read every comment, and we pray for every request. You're not alone in this. Step 2. The debt slavery warning. Once you've got your emergency fund in place, the next step is absolutely critical, and it comes straight from one of Solomon's most famous warnings. Proverbs 22:7 declares, "The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender." Solomon understood something that modern people seem to have forgotten. Debt isn't just a financial transaction. It's a form of bondage. You need to eliminate all high-interest debt before you invest anything else. And when I say high-interest debt, I'm talking about anything charging you more than about 8% annually, though the threshold can vary. Credit card debt is the obvious villain here. With average interest rates over 22%, Credit card debt is financial cancer. It grows faster than almost any reasonable investment return you could expect. Let me put this in perspective with actual math. If you have $5,000 in credit card debt at 22% interest and you make only minimum payments, you'll pay nearly $2,800 in interest over 5 years. That's money that could have been working for you instead of against you. Every dollar you use to pay down that debt is essentially earning you a guaranteed 22% return, which is better than Warren Buffett's long-term average. The strategy for paying off debt efficiently is straightforward. List all your debts with their interest rates and minimum payments. Pay the minimums on everything. Then throw every extra dollar at the debt with the highest interest rate. This is called the debt avalanche method, and it saves you the most money mathematically. Some people prefer the debt snowball method, where you pay off the smallest balances first for psychological motivation, but the avalanche method is more efficient. Solomon would approve of the avalanche because Proverbs 14:23 says, "All hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty." The avalanche is hard work with maximum profit. Step 3. The free provision exception. Here's where it gets interesting and where Solomon's wisdom reveals something most financial experts miss. There's one major exception to the rule about paying off debt before investing, and it's so important that it actually becomes step 3 in our optimal investment order. If your employer offers matching contributions to your retirement plan, you should contribute enough to get the full match even before you finish paying off high-interest debt. Proverbs 6:6-8 describes the ant. It has no commander, no overseer or ruler, yet it stores its provisions in summer and gathers its food at harvest. The ant doesn't ignore free resources sitting right in front of it. When your employer offers to match your retirement contributions, that's free provision. Ignoring it is failed stewardship, plain and simple. This might seem counterintuitive because we just talked about eliminating debt, but the math is compelling. Employer matching is essentially a guaranteed 100% return on your investment up to the match limit. Even if you're carrying credit card debt at 22%, getting a 100% immediate return usually makes sense. It's like finding money lying on the ground that your employer will double if you pick it up. Here's a typical example. Your employer might match 50 cents on the dollar up to 6% of your salary. If you earn $50,000 annually, contributing $3,000 to get the full $1,500 match represents a 50% immediate return, plus whatever your investments earn over time. No other investment opportunity can guarantee that kind of return. The key is to contribute just enough to get the full match, then redirect all your extra money back to paying off high-interest debt. Once the debt is gone, you can increase your retirement contributions. Drop your name and where you're watching from in the comments. Let me know who's part of Solomon Speaks today. And hit subscribe because we're building a movement where ancient wisdom meets modern money problems. Step 4. The tax shelter strategy. Once you've got those foundational pieces locked down, emergency fund, debt elimination, and employer matching, we move into what I call the tax optimization zone. And this is where things get really interesting because most people completely mess this up. They skip right to taxable investment accounts when they should be maximizing every tax-advantaged option available to them first. Proverbs 27:23 instructs, "Be sure you know the condition of your flocks. Give careful attention to your herds." In biblical times, flocks were wealth. And this passage teaches proactive wealth management. Joseph didn't just store grain randomly, he stored it efficiently in central storehouses where it could be managed and protected. Modern tax-advantaged accounts are your central storehouses. Now we get to maximizing your individual retirement account. And here's why this comes before putting more money into your employer's 401k. Your IRA gives you far more control over your investment choices and typically comes with much lower fees than most employer plans. Corporate 401k plans are notorious for offering a limited menu of expensive mutual funds with management fees that can eat into your returns like termites in a wooden house. With an IRA, you can invest in low-cost index funds and ETFs that charge fees of just a few basis points instead of the 1% to 2% fees common in many 401k plans. That might not sound like much, but over decades, those fee differences can cost you tens of thousands of dollars. For 2025, you can contribute up to $7,000 to an IRA, or $8,000 if you're 50 or older. The tax efficiency of keeping money in retirement accounts versus taxable accounts can be absolutely staggering over time. Let's say you invest $10,000 annually for 30 years. In a tax-advantaged account earning 7%, you end up with about $944,000. In a taxable account with the same return, but paying taxes on dividends and capital gains along the way, you might end up with closer to $700,000. That's nearly $250,000 difference just from tax drag. Solomon would look at that math and say you're a fool if you don't maximize tax-advantaged accounts first. Step 5. The Malachi account. If you happen to have access to a health savings account, this is where things get really exciting, because HSAs might be the most underutilized investment vehicle in America. Malachi 3:10 issues God's challenge. "Test me in this," says the Lord Almighty, "and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing that there will not be room enough to store it." An HSA is the only investment account I know of where you can legitimately test this. Principle financially. HSAs are like the Swiss Army knife of tax-advantaged accounts, offering not one, not two, but 3 different tax benefits. You get a tax deduction for contributions just like a traditional IRA. Your money grows tax-free while invested, just like any retirement account. And here's the kicker that makes HSAs special. Withdrawals for qualified medical expenses are completely tax-free, even in retirement. It's the only account that gives you tax benefits on the way in, while the money grows, and on the way out. For 2025, you can contribute up to $4,300 to an HSA if you have individual coverage, or up to $8,550 for family coverage. The catch is that you need to have a high-deductible health plan to be eligible, which isn't right for everyone. But if you're young, healthy, and don't have significant medical expenses, an HSA can be one of the most powerful retirement accounts available. Here's the strategy that makes HSAs incredibly powerful, and most people never figure this out. Pay for your current medical expenses out of pocket if you can afford to, and let your HSA money stay invested in the market. Keep all your medical receipts because there's no time limit on when you can reimburse yourself for qualified expenses. You could pay for a doctor visit today, keep the receipt, and reimburse yourself from your HSA 20 years from now tax-free. The math on HSAs can be absolutely stunning. If you max out HSA contributions for 30 years and achieve a 7% annual return, you could have over $400,000 in completely tax-free money available for medical expenses. Step 6. The maximum shelter. Once you've maximized your HSA contributions, you go back and max out your 401k contributions beyond the employer match. Proverbs 21:5 declares, "The plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty." This is diligent planning at its finest. The 2025 contribution limit is $23,500 for most people, or $31,000 if you're 50 or older. At this point, you're really cooking with gas from a tax perspective. Between your IRA, HSA, and 401k, you could potentially shelter over $35,000 annually from current taxation if you're under 50, or even more if you're eligible for catch-up contributions. That's serious money that gets to compound without the IRS taking their cut every year. Here's something that might surprise you about this whole process. Most people never get past this point. The average American saves about 6% of their income, which usually isn't enough to max out even their employer match and IRA contributions, let alone everything else. But if you're one of those people who can actually work through this entire sequence, congratulations. You're already in the top 5% of savers in America, and you're setting yourself up for a retirement that most people can only dream about. Write this declaration in the comments. I will follow the biblical investment order. Say it publicly. Proverbs 18:21 says the tongue has power of life and death. Speak wisdom over your finances right now. Make it a covenant with your future. Step 7. The Ecclesiastes diversification. Once you've worked through all these tax-advantaged options, that's when we finally get to the step that most people want to start with: taxable investment accounts. Ecclesiastes 11:2 instructs, "Invest in 7 ventures, yes, in 8. You do not know what disaster may come upon the land." Solomon is teaching diversification, and that includes diversifying not just your assets, but your account types. Taxable investment accounts are where you can buy individual stocks, trade options, invest in real estate, or just put money in good old index funds without any contribution limits or withdrawal restrictions. It's also where most people make their biggest mistakes because they think having access to every investment under the sun automatically makes them smarter. Here's the thing about taxable accounts. People get so excited about the flexibility and unlimited contributions that they completely forget about the tax drag. Every dividend payment gets taxed. Every time you sell an investment for a gain, the IRS wants their cut. It's like running a race while someone keeps throwing sand in your shoes. You can still finish, but it's going to be a lot harder than it needs to be. But here's where taxable accounts become valuable once you've maximized everything else. They offer complete flexibility. Need money for a house down payment in 5 years? No problem. Want to retire early before you can access your retirement accounts? Taxable accounts give you the bridge funding you need. The beautiful thing about following this optimal order is that each step builds on the previous ones, creating a financial foundation that gets stronger over time. Your emergency fund prevents you from derailing your progress when life happens. Eliminating high-interest debt stops you from bleeding money to interest payments. Maximizing employer matching gives you guaranteed returns. Tax-advantaged accounts let more of your money compound without government interference. So there you have it, the biblical investment order that most people completely ignore in their rush to get rich quick. Emergency fund, high-interest debt, employer match, max out IRA, max out HSA, max out 401k, then finally taxable accounts. This isn't religious dogma, it's financial archaeology. These principles worked 3,000 years ago when Solomon wrote them. They work today, they'll work tomorrow. Not because they're biblical in the religious sense, but because they're true in the mathematical sense. Solomon had access to unlimited wealth and the wisest mind in history, and this is the sequence he taught. Wall Street repackaged it and charged consulting fees. Behavioral economists studied it and published papers. You're getting it for free right here. Follow this sequence, and you'll be building wealth while everyone else is still trying to pick the next Tesla. Your future self will thank you for doing the boring stuff first, for following the order instead of chasing excitement. Because wealth isn't built by finding the hottest stock. It's built by following a proven sequence with discipline and patience. Subscribe to Solomon Speaks. Turn on notifications. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, you don't need to believe in Solomon's God to benefit from Solomon's wisdom. You just need to be wise enough to follow the order. May wisdom guide your finances, discipline guard your steps, and patience build your future.